I think when we come from maybe the lens of, let's say, liberal economics, the assumption is that, oh, we want all women to work. That's not necessarily the case. The case is we want to provide that choice, enable it. If people want to go to work, and if they can, and increasingly in this economy, it's you probably do need to go to work and have a dual income, then they are not restricted by something like care, which is a responsibility that is to be shared across society. And it's not just an individual responsibility. When they say it takes a village, it really does. It's practically impossible to do it by yourself. And that's why we see single parent households with the highest levels of poverty in Malaysia and across most of the world, actually. So that's one thing. But I also want to go back to this idea of inclusiveness. I think, and also to the framing this time of liberalism, I think we're seeing definitely a lot of divisiveness and social fracture. And so there's all this discussion about like, a lot of berating of the term diversity and inclusion. So people, potentially policymakers, are not happy to, fund things related to gender or whatever. I mean, you see this globally, right? But one thing I can say is that a lot of countries can really agree on the value of children that they bring, that they are, nobody, okay, very few people would say that children are not a productive investment, but it's a shared concern. And if we start there, we really get to equalize the role. And I also want to talk about, the whole relationship with gender. Talking what is the most important thing that you said? I think for me, it's the hardest thing. It's changing gendered norms, because we've seen in many countries where policies and legislation are so progressive. At the end, what happens is a backlash against these things, because people tend to see any kind of wins for women as a zero-sum game, as it taking away from men and their opportunities. No, actually, the research says time and time again, gender equal societies that also care for their most vulnerable are actually good for the entire society, economically, socially, politically. And this is something that we need to push wherever we go, is that gendered norms, you can put in the best policies. When it comes to implementation, there will always be barriers and roadblocks. And sometimes the people experiencing those barriers and roadblocks have the least voice to speak out about it.